Why I think the specialty of cardiology is a complete and utter joke. You got that? Any cardiologists listening out there? Why I think that your specialty is a joke. And it is because you ignore the biggest thing that is causing problems in your patients. Let me explain. Now, of course, I'm not saying all cardiologists are terrible. I actually happen to work with some outstanding cardiologists, but I choose the better places to work. I also do a podcast with a fantastic cardiologist as well. But to a massive extent, the entire specialty is completely ignorant about one thing in particular. And they focus on so many things to do with pharmaceutical products. They're all about statins. They're all about other medications nowadays like Jardiance. And if you go around the country and you read the notes from any cardiologist, when it comes to diet, they're very big on reducing salt intake. They will often mention reduce salt intake, reduce saturated fat. But the reason why I think that the specialty of cardiology is a complete and utter joke is that they almost completely ignore insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a true pandemic. In my opinion, the world has never ever seen a pandemic like insulin resistance. I've made so many videos on this topic before. I will include some links down below. What is insulin resistance? Well, it basically occurs as a result of a suboptimal lifestyle. People are consuming vast quantities of the wrong foods, mainly huge amounts of processed foods, carbohydrates, sugars, and as a result, they have an unnatural amount of insulin spikes during the day. And in a nutshell, to cut a long story short, the body's cells become resistant to insulin. So high levels of insulin are in the body, and this causes immense problems because insulin is pro-inflammatory, it is pro-fat storage. That is why insulin resistance goes hand in hand with excess body fat. But given that insulin resistance is such a pandemic leading to inflammation, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. Yes, heart disease. The number one driver of heart disease nowadays is insulin resistance. So you would think that cardiologists would be all in on let's talk about insulin resistance. But I can guarantee you, if you go across the United States or even United Kingdom, you will barely see a mention in any cardiology note about insulin resistance. And they won't mention that the biggest thing that nearly all of their patients can do to really help themselves is cut back on carbohydrates, sugars, and junk foods. Now, of course, I don't live in some fantasy land. I don't think everybody is going to do what doctors say, especially when it comes to diet. But if cardiologists are completely ignorant of this, then how are patients ever going to do what doctors say when it comes to lifestyle advice? So if I was in charge of the Society of Cardiologists, whether it's in the United States or United Kingdom, firstly, I would tell my practicing doctors to get their act together and focus on metabolic health as the number one reason for all of the problems they're seeing. Yes, of course, you can give medications, but you have to start with that basic fundamental, which is what Hippocrates, the father of medicine, would tell you. But I would say in basically every single note of yours in the chart, because this applies to over 90% of your patients, you should be mentioning patient has insulin resistance, cut back on sugars, carbs, cut back on processed foods. It doesn't help that the medical establishment is also ignorant about how to correctly diagnose insulin resistance. Yes, you can use fasting glucose, HbA1c, but you should also be measuring a fasting insulin level and calculating a HOMA-IR. I've talked about that many times before. I'll include a link down below to that video. You can diagnose insulin resistance years before the fasting glucose goes up. But if you are a cardiologist watching this, or you represent the specialty of cardiology, I would really urge you to not be ignorant about this. Don't do things just because it's the way you've always done them. Don't run around seeing patients, stressing to reduce salt intake, to cut back on saturated fat. Yes, if you're consuming those in excessive amounts, it's a problem, but you really need to start stressing to your patients, writing it in the notes, and a certain percentage of them will listen. Cut back on the insane amounts of sugars, processed foods, and carbohydrates that they are eating, which are leading to insulin resistance. And if you want to get scientific about it, the process in the body is known as de novo lipogenesis, where excessive amounts of carbs and sugars are converted into fatty acids. We cannot continue with this ignorance anymore. Insulin resistance is affecting people at a younger and younger age. And for doctors, especially cardiologists, where heart disease is basically caused by insulin resistance, a number one cause, for cardiologists to be ignorant about this is completely unacceptable. We need a revolution, and we need a focus on metabolic health and true health and well-being. That's all I've got to say about that. Let me know your thoughts down below, but I will stick by my original statement. Cardiologists and the specialty of cardiology is absolutely dumb when it comes to this. I'm going to be blunt because we cannot continue down our current path of complete ignorance when it comes to metabolic health, particularly insulin resistance. Thanks everybody for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do check in the links down below for my website, all the other work I do, including my natural insulin resistance reversal and fat loss program for anybody who is serious about going on this journey. Also, in the links down below, our natural health and well-being store, ohighwellness.com. If you're in the USA, North America, ohighwellness.co. If you're in the UK, Europe, if you enjoyed this video, you will also enjoy some of my other videos on how to naturally optimize metabolic health. Hit the like button if you like this video, the subscribe button for more similar videos in the future, and we will speak again very soon.